Thank you for staying this long. I think if you're still here and we can't get some concrete help out of you by the end of the day, then I will not have done my job very well. So I'm going to try to present a few ways that hopefully you can concretely get involved and get you excited about women in the role of all of this. I think that shouldn't be too hard of a task, though it's a more female crowd than I expected, which is nice. So I just, my background is that I'm the director of Tomorrow's Youth Organization. It was founded by Hani Masri. You've heard a little bit already. And basically our role is sort of creating an army. I mean, it's really important to have some of these generals that you guys have been talking about in terms of huge business leaders and international businessmen, both from outside and in Israel, Palestine. But none of that is going to go very far, be very successful if there isn't a talented workforce. And that definitely, there is some potential for that in West Bank right now, but there are also a lot of risks. I've been living in the West Bank for a little over 2 years now. Literacy is slipping, practical education is slipping, English level certainly is low, so we have to be conscious of that kind of grassroots issue as well in order to move on with some of these other fantastic and big initiatives. So Tomorrow's Youth has worked with about 10,000 community members in the last 2 years in Nablus, which is maybe the Gaza of the West Bank, in that it's very isolated, very conservative culturally and politically, and so that's where we've focused our initial efforts, which we plan to now scale up to Gaza, to other places in the Middle East. Again, building this army of talented and forward-looking, hopeful young people. So, women have I think the coiled spring analogy is a really good one for the Palestinian economy in general. But women in particular, there's about 10% of women in the West Bank right now who participate in the labor force. So to talk about a coiled spring, this is the most tightly wound part of it. That's a lot of women. It's also a very young population. So about 35% of women in the West Bank are in education or training. So if we can change the culture and offer training and get those women working, that's huge. That's a big asset. As a few people have said, it's a very small area of the world with a lot of variation. So Israel to Palestine is one huge scale, and then within Palestine, there's the Gaza-West Bank, obviously, divide, and within the West Bank, you have these situations in Ramallah, these very sophisticated boardrooms, learning about mergers and acquisitions, where in Nablus, or much more in the villages near where we work, people don't have internet, they may have a cell phone, they probably don't read, they may have finished 4th or 5th grade education. So you just have these huge gaps in people's reality. Education rates are still really high, especially among women. It's much more socially and culturally acceptable to go to college and study. To work is still a little bit more culturally difficult. As I said, it's a conservative population, so women are sent to school and they're sent to college to become maybe good wives, but not necessarily to become workers or much less business leaders. And there's really high unemployment for women. So even though only 10% of women are actively looking for work, they face 20 to 24-year-olds, so recent graduates, face 30 to 40% unemployment. Really, really high levels. Unfortunately, it's also extremely high for highly educated women. So those women with more than 13 years education have 30 to 40% unemployment as well. And finally, as we've been talking about all afternoon, the dependency on Israel is a challenge for women as much as it is for men.